And with that, welcome to the Brohemian Rhapsody show presented by, well, we don't have a sponsor yet, but please click like and subscribe below for all future content. It's the first episode. On this show, we will discuss the current state of our Chicago sports franchises, among any other topics that will come up along the way. The third line checking grinder line right here tonight. We got my brother MT, my favorite bros B, myself Kevin. Good to see you, gentlemen.
Perfect. We used to play floor hockey together. This was like the defenseman, mid guy, and cherry picker. So it's perfect.
I did my best to send it. That's all I can say. But as mentioned,
was I the mid guy? I missed that part. I weren't
the defenseman. You weren't the defenseman, so
I was a guy.
Just a guy. With that, current state. Because Matthew's my brother, we'll go to Byron first. Byron, you're Cubbies. You're the only Cubs fan here.
I mean, what is there to say? I mean, Len Casper left us for the White Sox. Schwarber that we should have traded 4 years ago, basically got, non-tendered. And, it's just bad, man. I mean, they built all this shit up there on the north side, the hotel and all this stuff. Even without the pandemic, they got to at least be okay. I think the problem is Ricketts built all this stuff and then looked at the bill and was like, oh, we have to actually keep spending money to keep this thing going. I mean, the saddest day in Cubs history, in recent history, is going to be when we trade Chris Bryant inevitably for like 2 middling draft picks. And, you're talking about a guy like, yeah, he sucked this year and he wasn't great last year, but, Chris Bryant's been banged up. But you're talking about letting a guy go who's the face of a franchise, former National League MVP, former Rookie of the Year. I mean, the guy out there, the guy's like hitting the Mendoza line last year. It's really bad. So just based on the current state of the Cubs, one of two things is going to happen. We're going to trade Chris Bryant to another National League team, and he's going to go right back to his old self, or he's going to continue to suck because we kept him and decided not to trade him because he's the face of the franchise. Door number 2, probably not going to happen. We'll probably trade him. He'll get healthy, and he'll be awesome again. I don't know. Guys like that just don't forget how to play baseball, but just inevitably, the way Chicago sports are going right now, I think that's what's going to happen. He's going to end up like, I don't even know who has the cap space for a guy like him out there, but, I don't know. He'll be like a Colorado Rocky or something, and he'll go out and hit 330. I mean, that's what's going to happen.
I think I read the Nationals would have interest, but I mean, as you alluded to, and I'm not a Cubs fan, so not that I'm dancing on graves, but his trade value is pennies on the dollar. And I wouldn't put too much stock. I mean, do either one of you really put a lot of stock if someone had a bad 60-some games last summer with coronavirus? Like a bad 3 months? I mean, like all-stars in a normal year from April to October go through a 60, 70 game struggle, if they're banged up. For the Southside fans, like Yoan Moncada was clearly affected by when he had coronavirus. I'm not panicking because of a bad summer. Now, it's much different with Chris Bryant because if you are trying to move that asset, his value has diminished. Plus, it's one less year of control versus we would trade him last year. But, I mean,
I think Byron has a good point that Ricketts is a businessman first. And I don't know if you read that article, but I read an article. It was somewhere in the billions. I don't know how many billions or millions or billions or something that MLB lost this year. Like a lot of money. And I think that, as a businessman, he's looking at his return on investment. And is he the richest asset on the Cubs? I don't even know. It's got to be close.
17 million? Is that his arbitration? Because this is his last year of, right? Because next year he's a free agent. So I believe he's one of the higher paid. Hayward's still up there for salary.
I think I know the number, but I'm going to look it up just to be sure.
He broke the record for arbitration. It was like 17.8 million, I believe.
18.6. 18.6 was his yearly cash last year. So, yeah, I mean, Look, here's the thing with the Cubs. I'll just say this so we can move on because I know you guys aren't Cubs guys, but it's a kind of a theme with Chicago sports right now. Forget fantasy sports and just the guys that are playing. What's your organizational health? What is your organizational health from the top down? So you lose Theo, who's going to be the first day he can be in the Hall of Fame, will be in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. You lose Theo. You lose Len Casper. Len Casper was going to leave. He was going to go get a national job. The marquee shit pissed him off so much he went to the Cubs or to the White Sox just to spite the marquee executives. Which, by the way, why would you try to launch a 24/7 Cubs network in the middle of a pandemic? Did they not see this coming and they said, you know what, let's retool it and just put the games on NBC for another year? That whole thing was stupid. It's really, it's just, again, organizational health. You launch your own network the year after you win the World Series. You don't do it in the middle of a pandemic when you're about to start a rebuild. The organizational health is poor.
Well, and also, like, as a non-Cubs fan, but like, you run into Cubs fans across the country because their staple was day games WGN. Like, that's what they're like, not to compare it to a different sport and level, but if and when Notre Dame leaves NBC, like, it loses like that whole mystique of like, you think of the Cubs, you think of WGN. Like, that's like, as a White Sox fan, Sports Channel, Fox Sports Chicago, NBC Sports Chicago, Comcast Chicago, it changes frequently. But they used to have games on WCIU when we were younger.
Oh, there you go.
Rotating games.
Shout out. Pour one out for that one.
Pour one out. Yeah, them and the WB. But like, Cubs are synopsis like with WGN. And like, as a baseball fan, like, I'm not against that. I don't like the idea of teams doing like, we're bigger than the sport, our own network. I've never been a fan of that, but it is what it is. You touched on it. I'm very happy as a White Sox fan. I don't listen to a lot of radio games. If I'm traveling via work or whatever, I will listen to Sox game in the like drivable area to get now ESPN 1000. They're back on 1000 this year. I'm worried about Benetti getting a national job because Benetti does ESPN for college basketball, Bill Walton. He does some college football. I see him because he's younger. He's gotten better. Nothing against Casper. I think Casper saw an opportunity of, in 3 years, I might be in the booth with Steve Stone for like Stone's last hurrah. And I think it'd be awesome as a Sox fan, Benetti or Casper. You got two high quality play-by-play guys for radio and stuff. So yeah, I'm a little surprised at the lack of action by the Cubs. I figured a trade or something. It was a funky winter meetings this week. I'm going to touch on that, how, like, besides the White Sox, no one really made a lot of noise this week in baseball. This is the week that, I know it's different when you're in person and all the GMs are in one hotel drinking until 2, 3 in the morning making trades. But anything else, Byron, before we go to another depressing phrase? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I think that you see the difference between the two sides of the city and how it is with baseball operations. So I think the Cubs now in a position where the White Sox normally are, where they can't depend on their neighborhood and the institutions around them and that hype to get them that extra money, get them that extra revenue. I'll tell you this, Starbucks closed in the little Wrigleyville place. Like, Kevin, I'm not sure if you've been there. I know, Byron, you've been there. Where they opened up that bar and stuff right outside of Wrigley Field where they had the winter sports and everything. That Starbucks closed. And, like, if that's happening, then all of those businesses, the Hotel Zachary, like all of that they invested so many millions of dollars in are struggling. And so they don't have that outside, like, this is a really cool place to hang out. Even if there's not a Cubs game, if there is a Cubs game, then we get millions and millions of dollars. When they lose that, I think they're finally coming back to like, oh, this is the reality that honestly the White Sox have had to deal with for years.
Well, it's their own fault for getting rid of that Taco Bell. I'll go to Byron in a second. There is a correlation. The greatest Taco Bell has ever existed in mankind was in Wrigleyville.
Well, hold on.
Greatest tasting Taco Bell I've ever had in my life.
That Taco Bell, I haven't seen the balance sheet, but I think that Taco Bell lapped probably every other Taco Bell in the universe in revenue, only between 10 and 2 on weekends. Like, for a 4-hour segment for 2 weekend nights, made more money than your average Taco Bell makes in a whole week, like, being in the whole day.
Seriously. Could you imagine if you're the store manager there, like the commission, if you got paid like per taco sold or something? Like, I don't know how their pay scale works, but like
there's a 1-to-1 ratio of armed moonlighting cops and people that actually make the food. Like it's the same amount of people. Like there's 5 people making burritos and there's 5 people with guns making sure like nobody kills each other for the burritos. It was the greatest institution of all time.
It was, again, and there's a correlation. They get rid of to me, the most attractive thing to go to Wrigleyville was, well, me putting on a clinic in the Cages and Sluggers, but B, Johnny O'Hagan's got rid of that, and then the Taco Bell. No interest in Wrigleyville.
Nice. I don't want to dump on the nice stuff. The Hotel Zachary, I've been there a couple times. It's great. But you know what? If you want to go stay at the Hotel Zachary for a weekend, like divisional series, it's like over $300 a room. If you want to go stay at the Zachary now, forget COVID, just this time of year, it's like $90. Seriously. I mean, it's like, so if your team sucks, what price are you going to be able to charge? We already know. We already know. So I'm just extrapolate that across all those businesses. They have to at least be okay. They can sell the sunshine in Wrigley Field, but they can't just suck. If they're terrible, the people are going to leave again.
Speaking of being okay, little man, you and I are Sox fans. The emotions you had on Monday, or was it Tuesday, in the same morning, traded for Lance Lynn, and then signed Adam Eaton. Like, I don't know about, I want to throw it to you, and then I'll put in my 2 cents. Where are you, temperature wise? You're smoking hot. You're loving it. You're freezing.
Oh man, I feel like there's there's a starter log in the fire, and like something's gonna light it, and I'm just waiting for it to be lit. But then you throw a 77-year-old Tony La Russa onto that fire, and it's like there's no matches to like light that fire. Like it's there, it's ready to be lit. Like yes, the window is open, but some of these decisions are just so questionable, and you have to wonder whether Jerry Reinsdorf is really into championships. Like, does he actually want a championship, or does he want a decent team for the next couple of years?
Well, he claims he wants championships. I'll say this, not to be a homer, and Byron, you can weigh in on this topic. I think the White Sox lineup is so good that any manager with a normal baseball brain can get this team to the playoffs. Like, it would literally take a disaster for this team not to get the playoffs. Now, again, health bearing. Like, if, I'm just saying normal year, normal bumps and bruises, normal guys missing time in the DL. La Russa, now that time is marinated, I'm like lukewarm on it. Like, I don't love it. The reason I don't love it is because clearly when Rick Hahn announced that, he looked like he was being held hostage. Like, he's like, we are so excited. I am so proud to introduce our new manager. Like, he was so defeat is probably a better word than hostage, but it was clearly a Jerry hiring. And it's like, he can't do his job if his boss is telling him what to do. So I'll say this. Love the Lance Lynn trade. Very high-end Dane Dunning, but there is this minor logjam of young pitchers with Giolito, Michael Kopech. You still got to figure out Ronaldo Lopez. They drafted a kid last year, Kelly, out of high school, was a couple years away. The first-round pick, Eric Roche, got to figure out if he's a starter or reliever. They have another kid, Jonathan Striever, in the minors, who's excelling to probably be. Still have Dylan Cease. So you have a high supply of young arms. They cashed in Adam Eaton, though. It's so White Sox. Like, it's so Chicago.
Great Miami, Ohio Redhawk, man. Don't hate on Adam Eaton. That's my boy.
Okay, Byron. Okay, I say this. As a Chicago fan of multiple teams, you're not a White Sox fan, Byron. How come Chicago loves the retreads?
Love the retreads. We are the retread town because we can't get free agents.
Right.
That's our. We keep telling ourselves it's like we got a great free agent. It's like, no, that's an asshole that used to play for us before. Like, that's not a free agent.
Which funny you use the word asshole. Like, the 2016 White Sox, maybe one of the most dysfunctional clubhouses ever, with the Chris Sale cutting up the jersey, Adam LaRoche's kid. And, like, apparently Adam Eaton got along. Like, Todd Frazier stuffed him in a locker and was about to beat the utter living crap out of him. And he had to be restrained by teammates, plural. So it's like, if he was a problem in the locker room, And this locker room, on paper, on the field, appears to be, they get along fantastic. It's like, I feel like the White Sox are throwing their own, like, grenades in their locker room. Like, Tony La Russa doesn't really.
You guys are the envy of the entire American League. If the White Sox don't end up with the best record, not in the division, in the entire American League, I would say something went wrong.
Yankees, though.
I don't know, man. The White Sox have you want to talk about guys, man crushes. I love me some Tim Anderson, man. You talk about all these Cubs teams that have never had a leadoff guy. I loved me some Tim Anderson. In an era where that guy doesn't exist, he's doing it better than anybody's done for a long time. I mean, you guys are a complete team. The Yankees hit a shit ton of home runs, but the White Sox should be the team to beat in the American League unless they do something stupid, which I think you guys were alluding to. Not necessarily haven't done anything stupid yet because it hasn't happened, but doing things that don't make a whole lot of sense, like bringing in Tony La Russa. Is that whoever the manager is, the White Sox should still be really good. But to Matthew's point, is that the guy that's going to get him over the hump?
Well, okay, I'll say this. Usually in sports, hold on, Byron, usually in sports, when you fire a coach, whether it's football, hockey, or baseball or basketball, usually go polar opposite. So if you fire someone who has no experience winning in the postseason, you go out and get a veteran. Like, for example, when the Nationals fired Matt Williams, who was a third base coach, they hired Dusty Baker. Like, polar opposite. So it's like, I don't know if Lewis is the guy, but his resume speaks for itself. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer. He has won a World Series in this century, multiple World Series in this century. So I'm more concerned about to your point, Byron, the White Sox should be a place right now, a team, an organization that the best want to come to. Like, it should have been the White Sox were beating managers away with a stick. Like, no, we can only hire one of you. Again, if you're a right fielder free agent and you're like, I can hit in between Abreu and Eloy with Luis Robert behind me and Tim Anderson hitting in front of me, and in front of him in the 9 spot, Nick Manigral, like, I'm going to have opportunities to knock in 100-plus runs. And we settle on Adam Eaton, who's off of back-to-back down years, -1 World Series. Now, he did play great ball in the World Series for the Nationals. I think that's what's the most frustrating to me is, like, I feel like they settled on Tony La Russa and they settled on Adam Eaton. Versus, to your point, and to your point too, little man, like, they should be saying, we are, like, for this example, they're the hottest girl. They're like the hottest girl in the school was a sophomore in high school. It's like, I'm the hottest girl now, and I got 2 more years being the hottest girl. And it's like, she should be settling for the held back 50-year senior who's dreaming of going to a Bonsby Community College next year. Maybe if he can graduate. Like,
here's the question, right? Is Adam Eaton, like, what is his attitude? Does he have like a Mike Richards attitude? Right?
Mike Richards, the hockey player?
Yes.
Oh,
Brad Richards. Brad Richards?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike Richards never played for the Hawks. Yeah.
When he came in, he had an attitude like, I have a couple more years left. I want to get this team back up to a championship level, or does he have the attitude that, like, I'm just going to come back here to, like, get some money? You know what I mean? Like, what is it? I would want to know.
One would think he won a World Series, wants to get back to that, and he played his best ball with the White Sox. I mean, the White Sox got Giolito Lopez and Dane Dunning. They got 3 A prospects for Adam Eaton. Like, he wasn't my issue is the talent is there. I don't want a clubhouse mess. I'll give you one example, and then we'll throw it to B to move on. The 2013 Red Sox won a World Series. The previous year in 2012, they had Bobby Valentine as their manager and finished dead last because their clubhouse in 13 was almost the exact same roster. And they won a World Series with the Boston Red Sox bred coach and John Farrell. The locker room was so dysfunctional, the players just cashed it in. They just showed up nonchalant. And that's what worries me, Matthews. Like, this team is so talented. Like, the talent is, again, you go up and down, Abreu, Manigral, Anderson, Moncada, and Grandal. There may not be a more complete infield in all of baseball, in all 5 positions. And you add on top of that, and Eloy. Eloy can rake a lot of defensive deficiencies, but he can rake Robert might win a Gold Glove in his career, multiple Gold Gloves. I worry about and they're all young, if they are just not listening to La Russa, and you have Adam Eaton being a cancer-like in the clubhouse, it worries me. So I'll give it to you, and then we'll move along. But
me or Byron? I mean, it's.
I guess I'll go to you. That was a great transition. Jeez, that was a third quarter Matt Nagy transition. Speaking of Matthew, bear down.
Yeah.
I need another beer for this segment. I'll be right back.
Jesus. All right. I guess I'll go next.
Please hit like and subscribe. Click like. This would be our ad right now with Byron getting another beer. We don't have one, so.
So I'll give some background for our viewers about how I'm going to talk about the Bears. I remember Matt Nagy getting about this close to the camera and being like, "We're 5-1. We're 5-1," and it's like, all right, Matt, like you don't fucking understand what is going on with your team. Clearly do not understand that they were so lucky to be 5-1. They had so many deficiencies, and it seems like their deficiencies have flipped, and like the defense has given up. And by the way, yeah, speaking of players who will probably traded and have a great one season, Khalil Mack will probably be all somewhere.
Well,
Seahawks or some shit. Anyway.
All right, so Matthew's checking out for a second. 4 games left. Texans, Jaguars, Vikings, and Packers. I may have flip-flopped Jaguars and Vikings in order. What's the worst-case scenario to you?
That we win some of them. I mean, to be honest, the Packers of the last week, if Aaron Rodgers is playing in that game the way things are going for them, I'm surprised, to be honest. So that you look at that game in week 17 and you say, oh, we got to get our asses kicked by the Packers again. We're probably playing against a rookie. It's the exact type of game the Bears would win. Jacksonville is one of 2 franchises, I think, that are clearly in a worse spot than the Bears. And the Texans' defense is so bad. I mean, it was bad before, and now they have injuries at cornerback. I mean, Allen Robinson, of course, I'm going against him in my fantasy league. Allen Robinson's probably going to catch 10 balls for 160 yards on Sunday. I mean, unless the weather's horrible or something, and it's not supposed to be. So, I mean, the worst case scenario is we win some of these games, to be completely honest. I'm one of these guys, I hate tanking. I think it's always better for your team to win, but the problems are, and this is why I said this earlier, organizational health. The Bears don't have it. We don't have organizational health. People don't believe in the president. They don't believe in the GM. They don't believe in the owners. They don't believe in the coach. And I love to sit here and rip on Nagy for just doing the things he does and then having his, smart aleck answers, coach speak answers in the post games and stuff that we all love. But
we'll look at the film. Gotta look at the film.
The problems are bigger than any one guy. You can point to Khalil Mack. Matthew's right. You can point to Khalil Mack saying he's getting all the money. Where's the production? But, this defense isn't the problem. The problem is it's a culture and it's an expectation. Why do the Packers always kick our ass? Because their culture and their organizational health is stronger than ours. So the worst thing for the Bears is some minor success against other failing teams at the end of the year that makes us look at things and say, well, let's do a half-assed job of reconfiguring this for next year.
Retooling. Yeah. This is one of my least favorite things in the world. When someone goes, we're going to retool, not rebuild. I hate – that's literally 1 foot in the water, 1 foot out.
Look, you sell 2 things in sports. You sell 2 things. You sell winning or you sell hope.
Yeah.
And the problem with the Bears is you've run out of both. Where you can say, hey, like if you're a Cubs fan now, we're in kind of a tough spot. The White Sox sold it for the last couple of years. They're like, hey, guys, we're not that good now, but look at this stable of talent, and this will be good. This is like a tree. We're going to plant the tree, and it's going to grow into something awesome. The Bears, where are we going? Are we going up, down, sideways? That's the problem. Is you're not winning, so you can't sell winning. That's easy to sell. If you can't sell hope and you can't sell direction and vision, you've got nothing. And I think that's where the Bears are. They don't have anything. We're kind of stuck in that middle ground of we'll probably kick the crap out of the Texans because they're horrible and injured. But does that tell me anything? Who cares?
So I asked Byron, worst case scenario, the last 4 games, Texans, Jaguars, Vikings, Packers. My nightmare scenario is they split it and go 8-8. If the Bears go 8-8, 8-8 is football hell. It is. It truly is football hell because Ask our friend the Barracuda. The Dolphins were 8, but until the Dolphins did a complete teardown, they were 8-8 every year, just constantly picking in the teens for the draft and all that. I'll point one thing I disagree with you, Byron. You think the Jaguars right now are in a worse state than the Bears?
Yeah, I do. I mean, one, they're in Jacksonville. That's kind of the point.
Okay,
right?
but besides location of the team, if I told you, okay, you are a high sought out general manager. Let's say the Bears shit can Pace and Nagy. You're a high sought general manager. I have 2 teams for you. One team has 2 first-round picks. They'll have a second-round pick, and so you'll have 3 picks in the top 37 and $90 million in cap space. And you'll have the second overall pick. Or you can go to the other team where you have $600,000 in cap space and you have 1 pick in the top 40.
Yeah, but that's
what sounds better though. My point is, if you're a GM and you go to the Bears, here's the thing: if you go to the GM and you're the Bears, you have to clean up Pace's mess for at least 1 year. So you got to do janitorial duties for 1 year. Versus if you're the Jaguars, if you take a Jaguars job, you get the second overall pick. Say what you want if you're high or low on Justin Fields. He's not Trevor Lawrence. It's a different debate for a different day. At least you're saying we can draft a franchise quarterback. They have another first-round pick from the Rams, and they have their own early second-round pick. You can get 3 guys who can come in right away and make your team a little more competitive. And then you have $90 million in cap space to make your team better. Versus the Bears, who have no cap space to sign Allen Robinson. They don't have their quarterback situation figured out, and they won't have a top 10 pick. So that's my argument to you. Like, besides the mystique of they are the Bears, and look, no one loves Chicago more than us 3. Okay, look, Brohemian Rhapsody, the friends of the program, we love Chicago. I'm talking if I was getting paid to work for a sports franchise. And not to mention, boys, the Bears were in an NFC Championship 10 years ago. The Jaguars, 3 years ago with Blake Bortles as their quarterback.
Well, they did it properly. They blew up correctly. They sold Calais Campbell. They sold Jalen Ramsey. They sold all their pieces because they realized their quarterback was never going to get them past. I mean, they knew that they were in a shit spot. Their quarterback wasn't good enough. They had all the pieces except the guy that mattered, and so they jumped ship. Jack Del Rio was fine, but they got rid of him too. I mean, they got rid of everything, and they said we're going to start over. And it's a quicker cycle than if you try to live in purgatory for too long, which is what the Bears are doing. But I mean, I get what you're saying. The numbers are what the numbers are, but like, don't we deserve better as a city and as a fan base? We
Absolutely.
Help found the NFL, Papa Bear, Soldier Field, all this stuff that's supposed to matter. And it's like, that's the problem. Like, we should have this mystique. We should be this place people want to go. We should be like the Patriots for the last 15 years. It should be a place that's important. We're a big city, a big market with a loyal fan base that doesn't have nice weather like Jacksonville to distract people and no taxes and crap like that. We don't have other ancillary reasons for people to live there. It's like, if you're going to live in Chicago, you probably live here because you have family here, because you have a great job downtown somewhere, a career there. And what do you do in the winter when the weather sucks? You drink heavy beer and you watch your sports teams. We're a loyal fan base. We should be better than what we are. And the Bears are the epitome of it, of all the teams.
The only thing, I'll throw it to Little Man for his opinion. The only thing I would say that the Bears have, possibly over any other very few franchises can say this in a pitch meeting when they're trying to hire someone. If you win here, you'll be a legend. Not a hero, a legend. We were all born after 1985. We still talk about the 85 team like we were in our 20s, broing down during it. We were not even born yet. Not even infants, we weren't even born yet. So, Little Man, your worst case scenario the next 4 weeks. Or I'll flip it. What do you want to see the next 4 weeks? What, a month from now, you see blank, you'll say this was a successful 4 weeks of December.
It would be great if the Bears lost all 4 games and somehow also at the same time were to evaluate who are the players that can play for at least 3 or 4 years, right? I'm at the point where, like, I feel bad for Khalil Mack. He needs to go somewhere else. Maybe you go back to the Raiders. I don't know. Can they afford him now? I don't know.
So, I'm sorry.
But somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like,
so the NFL is funky with their salary cap. Like, it's not as simple as, like, NHL, your cap is 10 million. It is what it is. There's that dead money with guaranteed money. I believe I use overthecap.com as my reference. I look at every time the last 6 weeks, Bears, I go right to that to see how bad the cap situation is. I want to say if they move Khalil Mack, they actually would have to, they'd be like in the red with the dead money they have to eat. So that, because the way the cap penalties work. So what that does is if you trade Khalil Mack, you lose Khalil Mack, but then you also like end up with more money counting against the cap because you traded him. So you cannot even bring in a good, it's not like, oh, we can move Khalil Mack's $26 million and sign 4 guys for $6 million. It's like, no, it's going to cost us 30-some million to move them. So now we're out an additional 10 million. So like if we were to do that, then it would be Jets territory next year. It would be bad. I mean,
I guess like someone needs to make a decision about where the Bears are going to be the next 2 years, and they need to develop an identity around their quarterback. There is not a successful team in the entire NFL that doesn't develop an identity around their quarterback. Okay, I look at the New Orleans Saints, who are sitting at first place in the NFC, I believe. Like,
yes,
Breeze is not nearly as good throwing the deep balls as he was 10 years ago. Like, he's not. Like, he's a great, like, you know, within 10 yards, yes, super accurate, but he's old, right? But they've developed an identity around him that makes it so they can win. So if the Bears are saying, hey, we're going to get a young guy and we're going to run the ball, or we're going to go with Nick Foles for a year and develop our defense, whatever, they need to say, this is our quarterback. This is our identity around the quarterback, whatever it is.
Final thoughts, B?
I'm looking at our salary. So we're talking about Khalil Mack. And again, I don't think Khalil Mack's necessarily the problem, but Khalil Mack is almost 13% of our total payroll. Our quarterback, our starting quarterback, I'm not doing the addition thing. I'm saying the guy we entered the season with as the draft pick and who we expected to be the starting quarterback is 4%. To Matthew's point, you're playing DraftKings, that doesn't work. You're playing FanDuel, that doesn't work. In the NFL, your quarterback should be 13, 15% of your payroll, and we fill in around that. We have no identity, and we have no organizational health. It's again, I'd love to dump on Trubisky. I'd love to dump on Nagy. The problem is it's all of them. It's all of them. You can't just pick one thing. That's the problem. It's all of them. It's an organizational failure.
We'll say as we move along. A year ago, we were sold on the only problem with this team was the kicker.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
Great point. Okay. That's a great point.
Matthew, going into 2019.
I'm laughing because I love it because you're right. I never thought of that. Right.
Literally, okay, a year, December, so let's go 15 months ago. 16 months ago. It was, guys, Montgomery's the perfect running back, and I love Montgomery. He's not utilized well. He fits Nagy's system. If we get a kicker, we're going to the Super Bowl. Like, it was sold to us that the only problem, the only issue was the kicker. Nagy's scheme does not work in the NFL unless you have Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Aaron Rodgers. I mean,
that us. But by the way, rewind it back 6 months, and you'll hear me say they needed O-line depth, which hurt them so much.
Matthew, not 6 months ago. I'm talking before 19. I'm talking after double doink. I'm talking, again, it wasn't that long ago where we were one kicker away from being in a per Nagy and pace. Like, hey, look, guys, ignore we have no draft capital. Ignore I keep trading draft picks to move up to get, you know, third-string receivers and running backs rolling and run the ball 10 times a game. Ignore all that. You know, we have a wide receiver, running back, Swiss Army knife, Cordell Patterson. Yeah, we need a kicker. And here's the worst part. Santos is actually our kicker, but we paid Pinero when he comes back, if he ever comes back. So we found our kicker. We have to get rid of him. It's the most Bears thing ever.
Win a Super Bowl with somebody else. I forgot what good team I was watching that has kicker issues right now. The Rams, maybe? I don't know, but yeah.
Guys, I got to say that everyone said the Packers game was like the lowest of the low. And then there was the Lions game after. But the one thing I noticed watching the Packers game, I mean, it's Bears-Packers week. It's like you always get up for it. You put the kid to bed early. You got the food ready. You got your drinks ready. Setting up here in the basement, me and the wife watching the game. And, we can talk about, the Kmet dropped ball and Allen Robinson and what could have been. But, like, you just watching this game. And you know what really struck me? Aaron Rodgers is not even there celebrating anymore. He looked kind of comatose. He's out there throwing for 5 touchdowns. He's kicked our ass so many times, it's not even exciting anymore. It's like a pro athlete with like a really smoking hot wife where you're like, he doesn't even enjoy that anymore. Like, it's the same thing. Aaron Rodgers doesn't enjoy kicking the crap out of the Bears because it's too easy. He spent his entire career doing it. That was the saddest I've ever been as a Bears fan, watching that. Aaron Rodgers tosses the ball over the top to Robert Tonyan for like his 16th touchdown of the game. And he just kind of like walks to the sideline, little high five to the teammate. It's like, okay, whatever. He's not even excited.
I'm gonna disagree with you. I've felt lower than 2 weeks ago against the Packers. As a Bears fan, I've had lower days. I've had lower days losses against the Packers. The 59-0 at halftime game, Trustman's last year. The Matthew, you and I, week 17, 4th and 13, Chris Conte blown coverage for Randall Cobb. 2010 NFC Championship. The Brett Favre Monday Night Massacre when I was a kid. The swing pass Raymond Harris game. Like, I could think of – that was actually, as sad to your – kind of adds to your point, though. That could and should be one of the lowest points as a Bears fan for me. That's not, though. That's like a normal like year. Like, and before we move on to the next depressing franchise in our city.
Yeah, I want to say this for all you Packers fans out there. Until you learn to stop the run game, you're not going to win a championship. So calm down if you think you're going to win, because you're not, because some team's going to run all over you that actually can't. But anyway.
There you go. Piss on our enemies because it's bad enough. Speaking of bad enough, did either one of you watch any of the Chicago Bulls preseason game last night?
Didn't need to, because it went the way I knew it was going to go. I didn't need to watch it. That was the best part.
I did. I watched, look, hey, okay, just prove me wrong. The Bulls are the second most promising franchise in Chicago right now.
No question.
Okay, so,
Fire?
Sorry?
Maybe the Chicago Fire? I don't know.
Of the 5 teams that we're going to talk about on this show, baseball, basketball, hockey, and football, the Bulls are, that's how bad the state is. The Bulls are the second most promising. Jerry Reinsdorf owns both the top 2 most promising teams in the city. That's how bad things are right now. So
that pick is either going to be great or that pick is going to be like all-time, like.
Well, he actually looked good last night. Now, what worries me, and I wasn't a fan at the pick of the time, is the last 2 top 5 picks who did not start their only year at college was Deion Waiters and Marvin Williams. So, and again, it's like, well, he could be a really good 6th man. It's like the 4th overall pick, if we're aiming for that. But it is what it is. But I'm very excited for Billy Donovan. I think he's a great coach, a great mind. Unlike the White Sox getting La Russa, unlike Nagy and the Colleton, Billy Donovan makes me excited. He lost Durant and Westbrook and still found ways to win in Oklahoma City. Like, if the Bulls win 30 games this year, it's not because they got outcoached. I don't think they're going to leave many wins on the floor from coaching decisions. It would be from lack of talent, lack of execution. Versus last year, where there were plenty of games they should have won, but Boylan looked completely lost. So, Byron, I'll say this to you. What is your expectation level for the Bulls this year?
I'd say a best case scenario, given strength of opponents and things. I guess weird year, everyone's dealing with that. But I don't know. I'd say, what do I expect? I expect like 35 wins. I would say good scenario, the ceiling is like around 500, which honestly, maybe I'm selling them short at 35 wins. I don't know. Maybe 40 some wins is reasonable in the East these days. But and I agree with you. I think Billy Donovan's a proven coach. One of the things I read the article. I didn't watch the game, but I read the article that was the recap last night. He told him, he said, we're going to get a lot of a 3-shot on us. We're not going to double off pick and rolls. We're going to run base defense. I want to see you guys go out there and just play. We haven't played in months. Just play. It doesn't matter. That's an experienced coach of like not trying to get his players to do things. We're not scouting the Rockets. We're not going to tell you how to defend John Wall. Just go out there and play basketball and let's see what happens. That's what preseason's for. I thought that was good. It's too early to tell. I mean, the problem with the draft pick was like the 4th overall pick. Like I don't know. I feel like Marvin Williams, Deion Waiters is like the floor. Like that's supposed to be the floor. So like you already cashed in. You're like, this guy will be a great 6th man. That's not what a 4th overall pick is supposed to be. Give me upside. Give me the guy who's 17. Give me the guy with a record. Give me the guy. I don't care. Seriously, give me a guy that's got problems. I want talent. I want oozing with talent. I want a guy that can jump out of the gym, shoot fadeaways, get his own shot, but makes bad decisions with the ball, takes bad shots. We can teach him not to do that with a
We have Zach LaVine. We have Zach LaVine. So
in the NBA, so you know what's funny about like, and we haven't even gotten into the Blackhawks. The problems with the Bulls and the Blackhawks over the last, call it 5 or 6 years, and further back with the Bulls, are the opposite problems. The NBA is a game of how many stars do you have? The NHL is a game of how deep are you? Like in the NHL, we have Kane and Tays. We're trying to fit all this shit around them because of our bad contracts. We're trying to fill in the other pieces. There's no problem with our best players. We're trying to fill in the other stuff. The Bulls are like, we keep drafting these awesome role players. Like we keep signing these awesome
Valentine. Yeah.
It's like, even Zach LaVine. Is Zach LaVine a top 20 player in the NBA? No. Top 30? No. Keep going down the list. So like, Zach LaVine's great and he'll have some awesome nights and fill up the stat sheet, but like, is he going to win a playoff series for you? No. Is Lauri Markkanen going to develop into that? We hope so, but man, he took a step back last year. So like, just show me where, and is Patrick Williams going to be that guy? Well, he's a really good basketball player. He's a great kid, a high IQ, plays defense. He's a modern NBA player where he can play all the positions. Great. Can he score? Can he get his own shot? Like that's all I care about. Like, just give me that. Give me talent and a guy that's been to jail 3 times. I don't care. Give me talent. We'll figure out the rest. Sorry, I'm done.
That makes sense. For those that don't follow basketball that much, I'm trying to like wrap my head around this. So in the East, you have like the Fighting Jimmy Butlers, right? You have the Celtics are still pretty good. You have the Raptors that are still pretty good, I think.
Well, we don't know if they can get across the border to even play games, so let's forget about them.
Hold on. So here, I will name you teams I think that are better than the Bulls in the East, Matthew, to kind of illustrate your point. The Atlanta Hawks are further along than the Bulls are. The Boston Celtics. The Brooklyn Nets have Durant coming back this year with Kyrie Irving. Charlotte Hornets added Gordon Hayward, and they also drafted LaMelo Ball. So take that. If you want to put them in the same boat as the Bulls, fine. Then you have... I think Detroit's still worse. The Pacers, I think, are better than the Bulls. Miles Turner, Sabonis, and what's his name from Indiana, Oladipo. You have the Miami Heat. You have the Milwaukee Bucks. Knicks are bad. Magic are bad. Philadelphia 76ers are better than the Bulls. The Toronto Raptors are better than the Bulls. And would you put the Washington Wizards with Russell Westbrook ahead of the Bulls? Right there, that's 9 teams, not including the Detroits of the world, that I think are further along than the Bulls, personally.
I'm just trying to think, like, as a Bulls fan, right? Obviously you're not going to win this year, but like you're building for the future. So like, when could that future be? So the Brooklyn Nets and the Fighting Kevin Durant's probably have 1 or 2 years. Jimmy Butler, I think last year was a fluke, but maybe not. I don't know. Well, who's his teammate that likes the Instagram models?
Tyler Herro.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could shoot. I love shooters, dude. Love Tyler Herro.
It's a lot of shots.
But Matthew, here's the thing though. Like with the NBA, if James Harden goes to Celtics, Nets, Bucks, that window goes from 2 years to 4 years. If Giannis goes from Milwaukee to Miami, it's very hard because 2 years ago, none of us would have said the Clippers' window to win is more than a year. Now they've got Kwani and big game Paul George. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, the NBA, if you get a star like that, then all of a sudden it's like, I mean, look at the 2008 Bulls versus the 2010 Bulls. Look at Derrick Rose's rookie year to Derrick Rose's third, MVP year with Tibbs. It's like, holy cow, the window was slammed shut. Now it's like wide open. So, and then it gets shut again really quickly. So
forgetting where they were drafted, when Derrick Rose was a rookie and definitely into his sophomore year, you had moments where he just owned people. Like Russell Westbrook, there were moments where you're like, that's a guy. That's going to be a guy. So to answer Matthew's question, when is one of our guys going to just go out there and just ruin somebody? Like when is Wendell Carter Jr. going to take the ball, go coast to coast, and dunk on Giannis in a game that matters?
So the first –
that's
hold on.
Because never he was the wrong guy.
You struck a nerve. First thing I heard from Stacey King and the new guy. By the way, Stacey King looks humongous. If the Bears need offensive linemen, get him out there. No one's getting around Stacey King. No one's getting around Stacey King. The first thing I heard is Wendell Carter worked on his three-point shot in the offseason. He was 0 for 5 from 3. First off, why is he working on his three-point shot? But number 2, he was 0 for 5. So this is the best version of his three-point shot. I would tell him, look, you are a big. Get your ass in the post, in the block. Because Laurie's going to shoot, Zach's going to shoot, Colby's going to shoot. And then if Otto Porter doesn't fall apart, he's going to shoot. So it's like, you do what you should do. He looks terrible. Wendell Carter looks like a bust. He looks so bad. So hopefully that progresses in the right direction. But, yeah, I watched the first quarter, turned it off, watched some highlights, read the box score. Williams, to me, he seems like my ceiling personally for him is like a Sean Marion. He's going to get you 12 points, get you 8 rebounds, some blocks and assists. If he turns into Sean Marion, that'll be a great pick. If he turns into Marvin Williams.
Kev, I want to play a fun trivia game. So I have Sport Track up. Credit to Sport Track, one of my favorite websites for stuff like this in sports trivia.
Hit me with it.
I have the Bulls salary cap situation up. I want you guys to guess the top 5 highest paid players on the Bulls.
Zach LaVine, Otto Porter.
Hold on. You're right with Otto Porter. What percentage of our cap hit is Otto Porter Jr.?
It's a high number. I want to say it's
guess a percent.
39?
That's wow. It's 23% of our salary cap. Otto Porter Jr. I'm just saying. Okay, you know what? I'm not even gonna ask you. Let's go through it quickly. Otto Porter Jr. Zach LaVine. Okay, 20 million. Thaddeus Young, Thomas Satoransky, and Cristiano Felicio are our top 5 highest paid players. I know we got a lot of rookies. We got a lot because we've sucked for so long. But guys, holy shit.
Here's the good news though to that. Unlike the Bears, this is Felicio's last year of his contract, I believe. He signed a 4-year, $32 million contract in 2016. And this is Otto Porter's last year. So we're going to get $30 million off the books. But then we're going to go back to the same revolving door problem with the Bulls. Can they recruit the big-name free agent to come to Chicago? Because the whole reason why they made the Otto Porter trade, they took Jabari Parker's expiring contract, because the Bulls said, we don't get the big free agents. We don't get them. They're not coming here next year. So we're going to get a guy we think is equivalent to that or the best free agent we can possibly get. They sold us on, we can't do better in free agency. So our tradable asset that was Jabari Parker's expiring $15 million contract that 1 year, or half the year we had him, is we're going to bring in a quality player that we would not be able to bring in via free agency. Now, it's a new regime. And I think that free agencies might pick up the phone now that Billy Donovan and Carter Virus are making the call, and Mark Eversley. But that's me. So that's why their segment was promising. The Bears have no cap space. The Hawks have no cap space. The Bulls, as dismantled and lack of talent they have tons of cap space. They have a point guard who appears to be an NBA starting caliber point guard long-term in Kobe White. Patrick Williams will figure it out. I'm not sold on Wendell Carter. I got
to ask you all a question.
Go ahead.
Boss Sports. I read an article. So, you remember the Tuesday Night Football Ravens-Steelers?
Yeah.
So, Tuesday Night Football got more viewers than the last game of the NBA Finals, whenever that was.
Okay.
Why do you think that was?
Football's king.
Because people knew what was going to happen because the NBA has no drama. You know the results before the season starts.
Well, so who win the championship this year? Lakers again?
Probably.
I'd say it's better. It's like Tiger versus the field back in the day. I mean, I'd say it's better than 50% chance. If not, go to the Rockets, go to the Clippers, go to whoever. I don't even know. Who's got the most fucking – all right, that's right. There was a trade. Who's got the most stars? Just whoever's got the most stars, pick that team as the second favorite team.
I would say if Klay Thompson didn't tear his Achilles, it would have been fun. What would be best for basketball would be, which I think we'd all – casual fans, diehard fans – if it was Lakers-Warriors in the Western Conference Finals and then Sixers-Nets or Heat – or, I'm saying like big names to your point, Byron. Like the NBA needs big names. As much as and we played the sport, we dominated Downers Grove B-League, multiple championships, obviously. But as fun as it is to watch a team like the Heat because they're Butler and a bunch of guys – it's better for business if it's Lakers Celtics. It's better for business if it was Lakers Clippers.
And we know it's going to be. And we know it's going to be Lakers Celtics. Whoever the Lakers and the Celtics of that year is. That's my point with the NBA. To Matthew's, I want to know what Matthew's article said because to me the NBA is this great product in terms of in the now entertainment, but the futures investment is terrible. I can tell you at the beginning of the season the 4 teams that actually have a shot, and everybody else might as well not play. To be completely honest. That's my biggest argument with the NBA. We can talk about college football here soon.
Yes.
But it's kind of the same thing. It's like you got your Notre Dames, you got your Clemsons, your Alabamas, your Ohio States, and kind of like, maybe somebody else sneaks in there. But like there's a reason since the college football playoff became a thing that it's been the same damn group pretty much the whole time, give or take a few little interchanging pieces. The NBA is the exact same thing. In football, half the league could win the Super Bowl in any given year. The Rams came out of nowhere to challenge the Patriots. They came out of nowhere. Sean McVay.
So Byron, before the year started, you would have listed 16 teams that can win the Super Bowl because I would have listed.
Give me 12. 5. Give me 12. Injuries, COVID.
Right. Okay, so take out the NFC East. Take out that's what no one is winning the division in the NFC East. No one's winning the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, in the NFC East. Now we're backpedaling back to football. I'm looking forward to the Bulls, but. I'll agree with you. Basketball is the one sport where you could probably count the teams win championship before the season starts on one hand. Football, you probably need the second hand. You don't need this many fingers. You probably need, again, because like if a quarterback gets hurt, then I
or the 49ers lose their whole team to injury, like in week 1, and they were in the Super Bowl.
We can all agree that football is more exciting, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, well, and also Matthew, here's another thing too. I feel like football's easier to gamble on. If you're just a gambler, not a sports fan, you like to gamble on sports. NBA gambling and free throws, it is like college basketball gambling. March Madness is great because it's one time a year. You cash in your chips, you pick some Cinderella teams, and you go balls to the wall. All NBA right. On a Tuesday night, when you got to bet on Bulls Magic.
To cover 12.5.
That's versus, and again, football is a little easier. It's not easier. Trust me, as a great gambler, football is a little more calculation of all right. That's a touchdown and a field goal. I need to win by a touchdown. Versus, you could be covering in basketball with 30 seconds to go, miss free throws, crazy threes, and 1 turnovers, and you're like, it's no fun. It's no fun.
All right, that's a great segment into college football. All right, what do you think is going to be the top 4 when it's all said and done? When it's all over, who's going to be the top 4? There's a lot of controversy around this. I know Byron and Kevin have their own opinions.
Let's go to the only person here who's a fan of that Ohio State University. Byron, you can go first. Yeah.
It's going to be the same 4 that are in it now because Florida's not going to beat Alabama unless the whole state of Alabama comes down with COVID or something. It's just not going to happen. Like, Alabama looks so good right now. Mac Jones is completing like 70% of his passes. It's stupid. And they have Najee Harris. Like, forget the defense that's playing a lot better. Throw out the tape against Ole Miss. Alabama looks like the runaway favorite to win another national championship. So they're not going to beat Florida. If they don't beat Florida, you got to assume Ohio State is going to beat Northwestern. Even if they beat them by a field goal, Even if they look terrible, if they throw up an Indiana effort, they beat them by a field goal instead of by 30, take away the 0 on what it should be. Like, it's just, it should be the 4 teams that are in it now, I think. It should be. Alabama has earned it. Alabama. What's that?
Your number 1 is Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
Number 1 is Alabama. Number 2 is Notre Dame. Number 3 is Clemson. Number 4 is Ohio State. I think they have it right now.
Even if Clemson beats Ohio State or beats Notre Dame, sorry.
How much?
How much? No, I mean, who? I mean, A&M has a loss. Florida's gonna have a loss to Alabama. So, like, pick your favorite one-loss team. Notre Dame has the strength of schedule, the game control, all the advanced analytics. It hasn't always passed the eye test, but Notre Dame has played well. Notre Dame should be in it.
Hold on. Notre Dame has not passed the eye test 1 week, and that was when they beat Louisville 12-7. Duke week 1 in Louisville. So 2 games they haven't passed the eye test, which I feel like you make the argument for almost every team in the top 4. There's been 1 or 2 weeks where it's been like, to your point, Alabama, Ole Miss. It's like, woof. So maybe Alabama has 1 week. If Clemson beats Notre Dame by a manageable score, 10 points, 13 or less, then I think it's the 4 teams. If Clemson beats the piss out of Notre Dame, worse than Alabama beat A&M, you might see A&M jump because Notre Dame beat Clemson with a backup quarterback and missing starters on defense. I think that's bigger than DJ because DJ played lights out against Notre Dame. He wasn't the reason why they lost. It was their defense giving up 40-some points to at the time, average offense, a team that put up 12 points against Louisville, as I alluded to. So as a Notre Dame fan, I think they deserve to be in, but if they lose by 33 points to Clemson, and it's like 33-0, like it's just a manhandling, and Florida beats Bama, which I don't think will happen, then I can see Notre Dame getting bounced out. Ohio State's worst case scenario is they barely beat Northwestern, and Clemson beats Notre Dame by a field goal, and Florida beats Alabama. Then I think Ohio State's out.
It doesn't matter because they're going to beat Alabama.
What's that?
It doesn't matter. But that scenario, that's my
correct.
point.
No, Byron, you're right. What I'm saying, though, is if Clemson beats, let's say if Ohio State struggles with Northwestern, struggles, wins by a field goal. And the problem is how bad A&M lost to Alabama. If A&M would have lost by 2 scores to Alabama, 14 to 17 points, but they got manhandled when Bama was not even playing their best. So I'm assuming Notre Dame and Clemson is going to be a 10-point or less game. I had a really good feeling back in November. I don't have as good a feeling next week as I did in November. That being said, this Notre Dame team does seem different than 18, 17, 15, and 12, meaning they have a lot of Sunday talent on the field. They have a lot of athletic guy. Like they don't have average Joes like they did in 2012. So I would say I agree with Byron. I think if Clemson beats Notre Dame, it'll be Bama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Ohio State.
So here's a question. Like, as a Notre Dame fan, and I'm wondering, okay, so in the committee, right? Let's say Clemson beats Notre Dame in a last-second field goal by 3. They let them play each other again as the 2 and 3.
First off, as a football fan, if you have a double overtime win and then a walk-off field goal, sign me up for a three-peat. I get, you want the same teams, but you don't want blowouts. And if these 2 teams have played twice and the point differential has been less than 10 points, and that's the thing. If A&M, to my point again, if A&M would have lost by a last-second field goal to Alabama, because everyone was saying we don't want A&M in because they lost to Bama already, I want the 4 best teams. If Notre Dame Clemson twice is a 1-possession overtime game, as a Notre Dame fan, my heart rate, I'm already getting an asthma attack thinking about it, but I wouldn't be well. But as a football fan, it's sign me up for that. Don't sign me up for putting in A&M and having that, having Ohio State and then having 1 blowout game. Because I think Bama, okay, I'll throw it back to you, Matthew. If the 2 semifinal games are Bama, Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Clemson Notre Dame even played twice 1-possession games, those both might be a one-score fourth quarter last possession game, which is fantastic as a football fan. No, I mean,
okay. What about this? What if Clemson loses at Notre Dame, they're out. Against Notre Dame, they're out. Maybe.
Probably.
Or do they
have to be? They have to be. With 2 losses, they got to be.
Okay, but Byron, if their 2 losses were to Notre Dame and combined, let's say Notre Dame beats them by 6 again. They have 2 6-point losses. Okay, and Florida gets manhandled by Bama.
Then it's A&M.
Okay. No, I just
at that point you got an undefeated, most likely undefeated Cincinnati team that you got to talk about. To be honest,
hey, first off, I love Luke Fickell. Hey, Bears fire Nagy, give me Luke Fickell. Give me Luke Fickell, dude. Give me Luke Fickell. But the problem is, Byron, like, their most credible win, because the SMU win doesn't look that good anymore. For Cincinnati, the Memphis win doesn't look that good anymore. It might be the Tulsa win next week.
I would say 2 things about this conversation just in bigger scope. So one thing that's clear is the committee really cares about conference championships. Really cares, because
they care the Power 5. You care the Power 5.
If you're in the Power 5, they really care about conference championships. You know, Herb Street actually, I think, does a good job of controlling his Ohio State homerism sometimes. But today he let it out, and he actually said something that was important. He said, you know what? Everyone's talking about the Big Ten rule change. The only reason the Big Ten played a season was because they thought Ohio State could win a national championship. Oh, you're not totally wrong.
I am not. My only issue with the Big Ten with their rule change is they should have been in September saying, we're going to play. These are the rules. They are subject to change given the circumstances. Don't put your foot down. This is my problem with the Big Ten. We're not playing. We're playing 6 games. Stop doing. All you're doing is you're backdooring yourself. Just simply say
we're gonna play. We're gonna if things go normally, we're gonna play the way we usually play, and if not, we're going to select the best teams we think have the best chance to represent the conference.
I understand the mindset of we don't want a team going 2-0 and then going in the Big Ten championship. Just simply say, if we play all the games, the parameters are 6 games. However, if we do not, we will adapt the rules if needed. That's all you have to say.
Either the games matter or they don't. Look, we could have said at the beginning of the year Ohio State is going to be a 20-plus point favorite against every team they're going to play in the conference or out, you know, and said that's it, and let's just crown Ohio State king, or we're going to play the games. The problem is you can't go both ways. So what the Big Ten did was stupid. Here's the deal. Let's cut the committee a little slack, because with the exception of a couple of them, Ohio State being on the bad end of one against Clemson, apart from a couple, since the college football playoff started, the games, to your point, Kevin, have been phenomenal. Yeah. They have been competitive.
Didn't Washington get their ass handed to them one year? I think that's like the only game I turned off at halftime, I think.
We got beat by Clemson by like 40 points or some bullshit like that one year. Like, I don't even remember what year it is. Repression. It's probably 2016. We got manhandled by Clemson. But like, other than like 2 or 3 of the games, in total, national championship and the semis, all of them have been really good games. So the committee is getting it right. Here's my problem. If you're saying the conference championships matter, I've said this for a long time, move it to 6. Give 2 teams a bye. Give the Power 5 each their conference championship, and leave 1 spot open for the second best team of a Power 5 or the Cincinnati of the world. Let them in. Let's find out if Cincinnati's worth the damn. The only way to know, again, either playing the games matter or it doesn't. Cincinnati can't control their schedule. They're never going to play an Alabama schedule. They're never going to play a Notre Dame schedule. They cannot hang their hat on we played this great schedule, so either the games matter or they don't. If Cincinnati could beat every team by 50 and still not make it to the college football playoff, tell them that at the beginning of the year, so you got no chance.
To that point, I would love a power group of 5 playoff. I mean, sign me up for Coastal Carolina, BYU, Cincinnati, fill in the blank. Sign me up for that Final Four. Matthew, to your point, if the committee does not want to see Notre Dame Clemson the third time, if Clemson beats Notre Dame by 17 points, 13 points, they'll bump Ohio State up to 3 and drop Notre Dame from 2 to 4, put Clemson at 2, and then you still got Bama, Notre Dame, and you got Clemson, Ohio State. So they have ways around it. What do you mean, no?
I don't want to watch that. You want to watch Alabama play Notre Dame?
First off, hey, Matthew, as a Notre Dame fan, they're going to have to beat Alabama to win a national championship. So whether they play them in the semifinal or the final, they're going to have to beat them.
Alabama was a 2-score favorite the year Ohio State beat them with Ezekiel Elliott and all those guys. I mean, college football still has parity. That's the point. Is like you got to decide at the outset: do the games matter? Or are we just going to look at recruiting classes and coaches and fan bases and just decide who's the best? Because we could do that, and we could probably be pretty right at the beginning of the season. I can look at the programs in the country and say, Alabama, okay, LSU had a down year, throw them out.
Georgia.
That's exactly the point. I think the Fighting Jimbo Fishers are going to be, having national influence if Notre Dame loses by 13.
Ohio State should have played.
Think so.
Ohio State's doing the same thing we're doing right now. They should be playing A&M tonight in prime time.
Because Matthew, A&M's best win, let's say Bama beats Florida. A&M's best win is to a 2-loss team, where Notre Dame's best win was against the number 1 team in the country. Like, right now, no one has a better win than Notre Dame. Right now. There's no team in the country has a better win than Notre Dame. So that's not going to change a week from right now during the ACC championship. The only way is if Notre Dame does a 2018 or 12, and they get absolutely manhandled. Absolutely manhandled. To the point where you sit there and say, well, A&M got manhandled, but they're better now. Notre Dame beat Clemson, but it was backup quarterback. And to me, the bigger point is the 4 starters on defense, I believe, are missing. Because, again, it wasn't like it was, oh, boy, Clemson, Notre Dame won 14-3. So it's like, all right, if Lawrence is in, they win 28-14, it's done. It was their defense could not stop. The first play of the game was a touchdown.
It seems like the consensus.
Tyron Williams broke up an 80-yard run. I mean, it was the defense was the problem for Clemson in South Bend.
The top
not the offense.
4, no matter what. It just matters on who wins those championship games.
And how they win them. And how they win them, though.
Yeah,
like, Florida has to win, period.
Ohio State won a national championship as a 1-loss team when they lost to Virginia Tech, a bad loss, the first game, because they went out and they ruined Wisconsin 59-0 in the Big Champ.
With a third-string quarterback.
Right, and like they snuck in and then they beat Alabama, and it was like the biggest surprise ever. Like, oh my God, they beat Alabama, and then they beat Oregon, and it was like they're national champions. Again, I like playing the games. This year, the problem is you can't say you got to play the games and put all that weight. The committee has it right now. The problem is, a bigger problem is, it shouldn't just be a 14 playoff. I like a 6-team format. You can't start adding too many games because it's football. They're student athletes. It's a physical game. You can't start adding games like it's basketball. But some people say 8. I think 6, where the top 2 get a bye. And then we let in a mid-major or whoever. Let in the Mountain West team that's kicking everyone's ass, and let's see if they can play.
Well, Brian, here's the problem. Let's say we did 6. And let's say Florida were to beat Alabama. You're going to tell me that they're not going to put in Bama, A&M, and Florida? They're going to say, Cincy, you come in, and A&M, you're out.
I think Bama's got to earn it then. I think Florida earns the bye by being the champion over the other ranked.
No. Byron, I'm saying you're going to tell A&M to go home for an undefeated Cincinnati team. When A&M beat your now number 1 seed Florida.
This year,
I'm with you.
I'm saying in a given year, it's either one of the Power 5 gets a second, or if there's not an A&M potentially, then you give it to the.
I like 6. I just think unless you go to 8, there's no way you can have Group of 5.
Nobody complains about being the 65th team left out of the big dance. No. That's my point with college basketball. We can't do that in football.
Byron, I'm just saying, you're correct. It should be more than 4 teams. 6 is the right number. I don't see a way, unless there is nothing but 2-loss teams, where, you make it once a decade, like an 07 Boise State team. Like that, it'd be once a decade, maybe. I like the idea of a Group of 5 playoff. I would love it. I would push my chips all in. I would give me more Coastal Carolina and BYU.
So Rice was a college football playoff voter for some reason. How did that happen?
She was, not anymore.
Yeah, I know. She was, though.
I brought it up to my wife today. I said she was in the committee. I mean, I'm all for thinking outside the box, but whatever. Speaking of outside the box, one last team to talk about. We skipped one Chicago franchise. Probably our favorite team.
Oh, that's right.
Little man, I'll go to you first, 'cause I've been going to Byron more than you because you're my brother and we like to argue.
You guys are coming for a walk.
Your expectations. It's going to be probably a 53-game season starting mid-January. What's your expectations?
It's tough.
By the way, new division. You know the new division alignment, correct?
Remind us.
You caught me off guard. So.
Well, I know that it's all going to be Eastern time.
Correct, which means we can be in bed nice and early.
So that would be nice. Chicago is west, like it's 1783, and it's Thomas Jefferson saying Chicago's in the west. Wrong.
Hurricanes, Blue Jackets, Red Wings, Hawks, Panthers, Wild, Predators, Lightning. So Tampa is winning this division.
Yeah, I mean, I like it better than our last division, which was really fucking tough.
Yeah, the only teams that carried over from the traditional division are the Wild and Predators. So.
Yeah, I mean, F Nashville for all you censored.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, the Blackhawks, it's tough. I don't know what to say. Like, Patrick Kane is a father now. Maybe that'll help. Maybe
he's not the problem. He's not the problem. He's far from the problem.
But when you talk about the Blackhawks, it's like, they should be better. Maybe.
Okay.
Their goalie might not be concussed. Like,
well, here's my question. Kind of pivoting off what Byron said earlier. Stan Bowman says we're going through a rebuild, and the only earth-shaking move he made was letting your 36-year-old goalie walk in free agency
for very little money per year.
I mean, and which I don't agree with, by the way. But I'm just saying, like, when you say we're going rebuild, like the Cubs did, 2011, the White Sox did. The White Sox traded Chris Sale, the best pitcher in baseball. We're rebuilding. The Cubs had Samardzija, all-star pitcher. We're rebuilding. The Blackhawks, we're rebuilding. We traded Saad for a starting defenseman, and we're letting Corey Crawford walk. But we're rebuilding. It's very confusing because not that I want to rebuild, but then that means you say 88's available, 19 and 2 are all available. Phone's open. Make me a really good offer. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Especially too, because he's the type of guy that still has maybe 1 or 2 solid years, but like
he's on a good contract too. He's on a good contract.
But what he brings in leadership to a locker room matters so much more. You know what I mean?
So expectation-wise, where do you think they'll finish in the division? I'll throw that number to you. Again, Carolina, Columbus, Detroit, Hawks, Panthers, Wild, Predators, Lightning.
I wish it would have happened 2 or 3 years ago. 4 or 5? I don't know.
It's representative of where we are in the league. I mean, I think we're like 20th best team in the league with our current roster, and I think we're right there in the division. I heard 5 teams that are better than us, clearly. I don't know. Nashville's got their own problems. I mean, actually, ironically, the 2 teams we brought from our division, I don't have a huge problem with, but some really good other teams in there.
Well, Tampa, Carolina are good. Panthers with Quenneville. It's going to be hard to see Joel Quenneville a lot. It's going to be hard to look at because this is what worries me. In a 56-game season, like you have to go. Let's go back in time, 2013, with the lockout shortened season.
Great time.
The Hawks winning or getting points in the first, 20-some games. A lot of that is with coaching, giving that extra day off, knowing when the team knows. You look at the coaches in this division: Cooper, Hines, Quenneville, Tortorella, drawing a blank in Carolina. Jeremy Collinson might be the worst coach in this division. So, which means to me, there's going to be some games that the Hawks, talent-wise, should win, i.e. versus the Wild, versus the Red Wings, that they may not win because coaching will be important this shortened season. Knowing when to rest guys, knowing when to have that extra practice, knowing when to give the vets a break, knowing what and
how good is it going to be for hockey to have the Blackhawks and the Red Wings in the same division again.
Well, it'd be great if it was 2013 when both teams were competing for a Stanley Cup final. Now they're both at the bottom half of the league. Now, first off, for us, I get to chant "Detroit sucks." Oh, I love it. I love it. If the Hawks and Red Wings are the two worst teams in hockey, I'm still all in emotion, not going to sleep if the Hawks lose the last game of the year against the Red Wings. But for a national standpoint, as a hockey standpoint, first off, hockey's putting their chips on an all-Canadian division. I mean, sign me up for.
By the way, what is this division called? American?
No, well, they don't have names yet because there's two other like North American divisions. There's Boston, Buffalo, Jersey, Islanders, Rangers, Flyers, Penguins, Capitals, and then there's Anaheim, Coyotes, Avalanche, Stars, Kings, Sharks, Blues, Vegas. Wow, the Blues got a rough deal there.
Yeah, just kind of like East Coast,
Kind of, not
West
really.
Coast, and then the rest.
Right,
Yeah.
but sign me up for, dude, Edmonton and Montreal. I mean, Toronto and Edmonton. Vancouver's on. I mean, dude, it's gonna be great to watch a Hawks game at 6:30 in Columbus, and then tune in at 9:30 to watch a game that, as a fan, I can just be like, yes, show me Quinn Hughes versus Austin Matthews a lot. Show me that. Like, give me that. Like, I'm all in. But the Hawks, I would think, will beat out the Red Wings and the Wild. And I think that's it.
Nashville's been kind of disappointing, maybe Nashville, but does it matter? Does it really matter?
No,
I mean,
but here's the thing. Wouldn't you say the Hawks like the Bears? They're gonna finish in that middle, in the middle.
20th team.
And that's and it's you're gonna waste Patrick Kane's prime years and the very little you have left to Duncan Keith. I will say this. We'll go around the horn with one Hawk player you're excited to watch, and then we'll wrap this up. Very excited to see Ian Mitchell, the defenseman out of Denver College. I'm very excited to see Ian Mitchell this year. Byron, I'll go to you first. Give Matthew a little more time to think about it because I know he's thinking. Who are you excited to see?
Give me Pius Suter, man. We keep striking gold with weird European prospects. I mean, Kubalik, Panarin. Give me three for three. Pius Suter comes out and scores 25 goals and looks great and is a staple forward for us. And we pay him no money. That's exactly the type of diamond in the rough the Hawks need if they're gonna surpass projections. It's easy to be down on the Hawks. There's always teams in every sport, always in hockey, that surprise. We think the Hawks are going to suck. Maybe they surprise us. Again, will it matter in the big scheme of things? No. But I think right now people in Chicago would be excited if the Hawks were sniffing around a playoff spot, whether we deserve it or not. And so you say, how does that happen? Well, how does that happen is guys like Ian Mitchell get ready really quick. Guys like Pius Suter score 25 goals, and we find a goalie that is okay on our roster. That's how it happens. So if by a miracle, we don't think that's going to happen, but if it did, maybe the Hawks end up being okay. I doubt it, but it could happen. So I'll cross my fingers and hope.
Little man, one with you. What player are you excited for?
Whoever's starting in net.
It's the right answer.
I don't know who that will be, but who's ever starting in net, I'm excited for them. They have a great opportunity. They finally have that. They have the shadow of the Stanley Cup winner gone, so they get a new opportunity.
And to your point, that's probably the most right answer is who. I think it's Lightning, who is in Rockford right now. I think if Malcolm Subban was an NHL starting caliber goalie, he would have gotten at least a game last year with the Hawks or with Vegas or with Boston before then. I think he is just a journeyman emergency backup. And Colin Delia, I have seen Colin Delia on a Jeremy Colleton coach team. It's not going to be pretty. So, good answer. And, we'll see. I'll say this. I think Bowman let Crawford walk, trying to mimic the Columbus Blue Jackets last year, how they lost Bobrovsky and had two unknown goalies. The problem is the Blue Jackets have Seth Jones and Zach Werenski in front of those goalies and a system that is you block shots, you force pucks out, You go to the perimeter where the Hawks have no Norris Trophy defenseman right now on the roster, and they play Mighty Ducks 2 street ball in Compton, all offense, no defense. So I don't see how these goalies are going to be able to stand on their head to win games. But with that, let's do a finale. We'll go around. We're going to go tick, tick, tick. One final thought on anything you want, sports or pop culture, anything. We'll go to Byron first.
Oh, man. God, I don't know. I just hope we get fans back in the stadium. You know, are we going to be in for any of these, whatever it is, 56 games, maybe the end tail of it? Are we going to get the hockey trip in this year? That's all I hope for. You know, a guy can dream, right? We're probably not, but I'll hold out hope. That's all I got.
Little man.
I feel bad. The way the NFL works, there's going to be some team that has Matt Nagy as their offensive coordinator at some point. I'm sorry. He sucks. Kevin.
The one sport we didn't touch on today, college basketball. I'm glad it's back. As a U of I fan, this team is really, really good. They play in 3.5 hours against Missouri. I've watched a decent amount. They did lose to Baylor. This team has potential to be in the Final Four. This is the best team since 2004 and 5. The D. Brown, Darren Williams, Luther Head, Roger Powell, James Augustine years. In the last 10 years, I've only had one really good college basketball team to root for. That was the 2015 Notre Dame team that lost in the Elite Eight to Kentucky. The Covington, Horace Grant's nephew, Vasturia, that team. This U of I team is really good. They're great to watch. I had a what's my age moment when I didn't realize that Frank Williams' kid starts on U of I. I just did not put 2 and 2 together. Frank Williams played when I was in high school on U of I. His kid is a lockdown defender. They're very athletic. They have 2 bigs that can play. Io is one of the best point guards in the country. It's a very exciting time to be a U of I basketball fan. So anyone who's even a casual fan, this will be the best team in the state of Illinois the entire winter and spring. So get a chance, check them out. I have not been this excited about a basketball team since my senior year of high school. So that's my closing thought. Good to see you guys. Like, subscribe, Brohemian Rhapsody. Like, subscribe.
Like,
And subscribe.
And that shit.